Mr. President of the National Congress, Senator Diego Pacheco, excellent President of the Chamber of Deputies, Artur Lira, Mr. President of the Federal Supreme Court, Mr. Andavedi, my Vice President Geraldo Henrique, Mr. and Mrs. Bosses, Chiefs of State and of Government, Mr. First Secretary of the Deputies, Mr. Luciano Vivar, Mr. Procurator of the Republic, Augusto Alas, my mate, and my mate, Luzaba, and Mr. President of the Republic, and my colleague Dina Rousseff, former President of the Republic, Mr. of the Parliament, Mr. and Mrs. Chiefs of the Foreign Delegation, my friends. For the third time, I'm here to this National Congress to thanks to the Brazilian people and the vote of trust you gave me to me. The swear of fidelity according to the Constitution of the Republic, plus with the President Geraldo Arcos and the ministers that I know, and ministers that I know, we're going to work. And thanks for the political conscience of the Brazilian society and democratic party we formed to this large, long, historic campaign. We have victorious, so overwhelming, these resources, public and private resources. More violence threatens to my people. Of the other campaign of lies and hate to manipulate the election, the Brazilian election. Never the resource of the state well lied, because we know that the Republic on the right way and of Republicans. Never the electors were too bad and too sad by the economic power and many lies that of this industrial scale. In spite of the decision of the DOP goes on, one recognized the Supreme Court was recognized, and it was fundamental attitude, courageous of the superior electoral court and to the Supreme Court, and for the Supreme Court, yes, to prevail the truth of doubts about violences of people who were talking against me, Mr. and Mrs. When we came to this plenary of the Chamber of Deputies in this Constituent Assembly in 1988, what the discussions we talk here to talk about the Constitution with social rights, individuals and all the people, beneficial for the population and the national sovereignty. 20 years ago, when I was elected president of the first time, close with the Vice President José Alencar, I started the word like change that was only simply and concrete the constitutional precepts to start with the right of a good life without foam, with job and health and education. I said on that occasion that my life will be committed when each Brazilian can eat 3 times per day. I want to repeat this commitment today because when the misery and foam advance that overcome the bad devastation that imposed in this country, today our message to Brazil is hope and reconstruction. is really difficult of generating sovereignty and development that this nation rose up. Since 1988, I was systematically demolished in the next years. So this is difficult of the national values that we're going to address of all our efforts. My friends, in 2022, we have the hope that in the sense of overcome the fears of the election of representatives of the working class to address the destination of the country. We know that all the frights of the word talk about. Instead, we're not here. But what representative of the working class could be to work with the society, promote the economic growth in sustainable way and beneficial for everyone, especially for more or other than it. It is possible to govern this country, rule this country with a high social participation, including works and poor people in the decisions of the government, in the budget and decisions of the government. Right away, this electoral campaign, the hope is the hate of a suffered people, of the destruction of public policy that promote the citizenship, the rights, essential rights like health and education. I just came from a generous country that offer opportunities for their sons and the society active, strengthen that individualism. Because what we have to of the government, the transmission of this government is we clarify to take out, to look up for the budget of health and education. They destroyed the protection of environment. Didn't give resources for school, food, protection to the forest and social assistance. The governance of the economy on public salaries to support companies and workers and foreign policies. They gave the resources. They were empty. The stupidity of people that didn't allow work and private stockholders to buy public companies. It is terrible that I assume now the commitment with the Brazilian people to build a country and to make Brazil for everybody and to everybody. I want to say, deputies and senators, that the result of our transition that was condemned by Cooperado will be sent to any deputy and every senator, to every minister of the Supreme Court, to the minister of the electoral Supreme Court, of the judiciary, to each university, to every working union, so people should know how we found this country, and each one can make its assessment. Ladies and gentlemen, in front of the sanitary disaster that we inherited, we talked to the National Congress that they proposed to support the great population that the state needs, just only to survive. I want to thank to the Chamber and the Senate by the sensibility of the Brazilian people and the attitude responsible of the Federal Supreme Court, and for this situation that is really get and destroy the harmony of the powers. I did like this because it's not fair and correct to ask for patience for people that has foam, the hungry. So no government could be above the misery of the people, the interest of the population, and the birth of democracy and the sovereign nationality are the main points of this government. This commitment starts by the guarantee of program for family support more firm for people that more need, because we have to rescue the hunger of 33 million people and rescue poverty for more than 100 million of Brazilian people. They support the load of this project, the national distribution that is not fair. So this electoral process also were created by the contrast of different jobs. Our nationality and the political participation and social participation for rule the destinies of this people, of this country. That a destruction of the state and destruction of the liberty to live alone. To defend and to live with dignity, with the right of all the people to have manifestation, and of course also organization, liberty that they bring as the first now, and now they impose the law of the power. So that I call barbarian. I understood from the beginning of the day that we should be candidate for a wide front, because I have a commitment with my origins. This headquarters was consolidated, put in place to return the authoritarianism in this country. Since now, the law of information will to be committed. The portal of transparency will be to work his paper with Republicans. They will vote to be work to defend the public interest. Never take what they tried to hurt this nation. So we're going to help them. So we're going to guarantee the law, because they made many mistakes, and we're going to defend of this legal process for the stability and dignity of the Brazilian people. This period that this mandate we're going to work on, we are inspired. So we're to defend with the powers of the Constitution give to democracy. We will respond with love. The lie with truth, terror, and violence, we will respond with loss, and the hardest consequences. So the net of democratization of the net will not defend never again. So before the terrible challenge we overcome, so we have, and I promise you, democracy forever. To conserve these words, we have to rebuild in solid basis a democracy in our country. Democracy will be defended by the people in a measure that guarantee to everybody the rights written in the Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, today, I'm signing to reform the executive power, so I will allow to work the government of rational way, that public and democratic, to rescue the work of restitution of the state, many public offices and companies, to plan public investment, to look for growth crescent, sustainable growth economic. We're going to give some priorities to take responsibly lives that are more than 14,000 in the country. We're going to retake the house, the home, and my life, to restructure a new park to generate works in the speed that Brazil needs. We're going to look financing and national international cooperation and investment to dynamize the internal market of consumption internal market and the trading, exportation, services, and agriculture and industries. The public banks, especially BNDES, the growth and innovation of Petrobras, it will be a fundamental paper in this new cycle. At the same time, we're going to impose to help all the small companies, all that generate for taxes, tourism, cooperativism, and creative economy. Talking about the economy is going to go around a popular market. We're going to retake valorization of the minimum salary, and we're going to finish with a long file INP as a social security, and the people, they don't attend to my people, and that's worst, and they're going to take care about them and forget about long lines. We're going to dialogue in 3 ways: government, union, and working labor. A new working labor to guarantee to start with social protection challenge in on these times. Ladies and gentlemen, Brazil is big too much to quit this productive potential. It doesn't make sense to import fuel, fertilizers, petroleum platforms, microprocessors, airways and satellites. We have technical capacity, capital or market capital enough to retake the industrialization and offer of services in a competitive level. Brazil can secure in the first line of global economy, while to the state will be articulate the digital transition being the Brazilian industry for century, 21st century, and to stimulate the cooperation, public and private, to strengthen technology that guarantee financing with adequate costs. The future belongs, they want to invest in the knowledge of known, but with a strategy, national strategy, planned with the productive sector, center universities and technology and innovation. All the public banks and state banks foment agents for to study. They want environmental process, so they want the creativity of the bioeconomy and all this and all this work they're going to start. We're going to start ecologic work for agriculture and mining, sustainable, familiar agriculture, and more being in our country. Our goal is now to bring out all the forest in the Amazon region. So be careful. I'm not going to allow this slashing in the Amazon region. I would never allow that. And also stimulate and recruit of about Catholic grazing, to slash some forest, and also to the agricultural border. We don't want to bring out any tree, just replant 30 million of land that we can live without slashing, burning, or bring down trees and violence. We are going to incentivize prosperity on the land, freedom and opportunity to create and plant and harvest. These are our objectives. What we can admit is that could be a land without law. We are not tolerating violence against the smallest one, slashing and degradation of the environment that are affecting and slashing and affecting our country. The only reason, not the only one, the creation of the indigenous would much better to protect our rainforest. And also we are going some time ago So any area slashed, we don't have to do it. So these Brazilian people, we need respect to that. When we have a historic debt, we're going to protect them, and no more slashing or burning. We're going to bring out all the injustice against the indigenous people. My dear friends, a nation without measure only from the statistics, but more impressive than could be. Like a human being, a nation expressed truly for the love of their people. Brazil is in diversity, that we have our people and our cultural manifestations. We have talking about culture with a vision to go back intensively to incentive politics and also culture-based culture goods that we have seen, not in last year, but going to look at where to invest now, where to take care. We don't have a political just talking about all the flowers that we harvested and all the fruit of this activity, all of them can see and can collect without censorship and discrimination. It's not that with the majority poor people oppressed by a country with African migrations. We have to political a political issue with the university and the way today the drop politics. We have to take care about health, education, and culture. Where this government is going to protect and create more laws for them. We can't start that women can get less salary than men, so they will not be recognized in a political group. So they will be taken apart, and they were victims of violence inside and outside of their houses. We are founding the Ministry of Women to demolish this Spanish centuries ago and to abolish forever and protect them. It doesn't exist really justice in a country. What other human being will be injustice? They will be to the Minister of Human Rights for each citizen could have his rights respected, access to public services, and protection of preconcept, the right of public authority, citizenship, and another name of our beloved democracy. The Minister of the Justice and Public Security will be to harmonize the powers, federators, and to promote the peace or what people need, the poor people, vulnerable people, organized crime, militias, and violence. We are talking about the criminals, the access to these weapons, ammunition, that they hurt many people of this country. So it created more unsafety to this people. Brazil doesn't need weapons in the hands of the people. Brazil needs secure education and culture so people can be a free country. About God protection. I reassure in Brazil, who is present in every home, and church and cults. All people can practice all their religious. Ladies and gentlemen, that close was sublime, one more tragedy of history, pandemic of COVID in this country. Amount of fatal victims was so high that affected other population or the more prepared countries to face the sanitary emergency. transport competence of our unique health system and competence of vaccination of our people. This paradox explains the criminal attitude of segregation government. He was insensible to life with this genocide before we talk, and it doesn't have to be demanded. It hasn't to be demanded. What I have to talk about, solidarity with families, parents, brothers, sisters, and 700,000 victims of the pandemic. We are talking about more democratic constitution created by the Constitution of '88. Of course, because of it, it was also pursued and also very prejudiced with a stupidity called technical expenses. Okay, right, I just put it out. I cross it out. We're going about talking about the budget of people to guarantee assistance and promote to a specialized medicine. We're going to the budget of education, invest in more universities, technical learning, universalization of access to internet, the inflation of kindergarten, and integral public health. This is the growth we truly will take to the development of this country. The model that we propose, approved on the ballots, demand yes, committed with responsibility, credibility, and credibility. With realism that the fiscal monetary, controlling the inflation and respecting contract that govern this country. We can do it different. But the obligation to further better than we did. Ladies and gentlemen, the eyes of the world were looked to Brazil in this election. The world expected with a leader and an example of social and responsible country, just such to promote not only with net but distribution of data inside of the democratic process. Our project will be concrete the integration, the South American integration from Mercosur, and will articulate about sovereignty to our region to compete with other countries. On this base, we can rebuild something active with the United States, the European community, China, and Middle East countries, and other global actors that strengthen our bonds and to break the isolation that the country was put on time ago. Brazil wants to be the owner of itself, the owner of its destiny. We are responsible for the great part of the Amazon region and more languages, many water, petroleum, and energy, clean energy, with the stability and honesty will be respected to share this greatness with humanity. Solidarity never subordinated to other ones. A relevance of the election in Brazil refer the threats that was democratic and around the planet, and articulate authoritarian extremism that disseminates at the light and this chronological age that not submit to this not transparency project. We have urgent to create a democratic instance, democratic issue, consider of responsibilization of the means that we have of the lies that are articulated against us. So the same way that separation, wars, the climate crisis, and hunger and inequality of the project are reaffirmed for Brazil and to the world. The conviction that political or most highest senses, and in spite of these limitations, is the best way for dialogue dialogue to construct peacefully of the process. Negative politics, and valorizada and criminalized is the way of barbarity and tyranny. A more important mission from now on is to honor the trust received and respond the hopes of the suffering people that never lost the faith in the future or capacity to overcome challenges. For the strength of other people and the strength of God, we will build a new country. Friends.